Hi, welcome back to the channel. I'm Scott. This is Stan. This is Dave. I'm Machine Gun Dad. Like, subscribe, beg for subscriptions, whatever. I'm doing that now to the YouTube gods. Alright, we're going to do a quick comparison video. The M3 versus the M3A1. Neither one of these guys have ever fired a grease gun, I'm assuming, right?
Correct.
I already checked on the Thompson. So we followed my lock, look, and load routine, and they both fired 25 rounds out of each gun to give them a comparison. And then after they pick a winner, and then we're going to match it up against the winner of the Thompson, and we'll talk about which one they would prefer as a civilian or as if you had to fight with it. And then we'll pick a winner. And that'll be at the end of the video, but right now let's just compare these two. Alright, Stan's going to take the M3 for a ride. He's going to follow our principle of lock, look, and load. Then he's going to run 25 rounds through the M3. Go ahead, Stan. Lock, look, unload. Alright, we'll move to the M3A1. Alright, Stan's going to take the M3 for a ride. He's going to do again, lock, look, and load. Lock, look, unload. Alright, that was pretty easy. We're here with David. It's his turn on the M3. Go ahead and lock, look, and load.
Lock, look, load.
Way high.
Yeah, I see that.
Double hit. Lock, look, and unload.
Lock, look, unload.
Dave's turn on the M3A1. Lock, look, and load.
Lock, look, load.
Lock,
Lock,
look,
look,
unload.
unload. Sorry, this thing is getting in my way a little bit. Yeah.
Stan went first last time. Your turn.
Okay, they're both fun to we're comparing these against each other, not the Thompson, correct?
Right.
Okay, so they're very similar as far as, shooting to one another. I really didn't notice a big difference between either. I think the biggest difference is the charging handle, where this one is cocked with your thumb and that one has a cocking mechanism. The aperture sight I wasn't very crazy of. It kind of obscured the area around the target a little bit, but I can't, I have nothing bad to say about it. It certainly seemed like a decently...
Is there a difference between them for you?
I didn't notice one personally.
So either or.
Yeah, either
no
or.
real winner.
Yeah.
In terms of like shooting the weapons and how they're about, I thought, yeah, both guns have basically the same rate. Felt like virtually the same rate of fire, pretty much the same recoil. Yeah, about the only difference between the two really seemed to be the way they're charged, the way you charge them. Remember, you mentioned how this has this one they went over to the A1 because this is a little bit more fragile. So I suppose, especially given that, that's not a problem. Just using your finger to hook it back. So yeah, I'd have to say that purely shooting, you know, 6 of one, half dozen of the other. As a fighting gun, though, that one's less likely to have something break, so that's the one to choose for me.
So as a civilian, and there aren't that many of these out there in civilian hands, unfortunately, but as a civilian, you would take either or, whichever one you can get your hands on.
Exactly.
But if you had to fight with one, you'd the upgraded one.
Yeah.
I agree, yeah. My only concern, I wonder, I know it's an open bolt, but did it have a magazine holder? It didn't have a mag hold open, so I wonder sometimes, if this is, potentially hot and you have to put your finger in there to get it back, but in all honesty, I mean...
It's an open bolt, it doesn't get that hot.
Yeah, I can't imagine it's going to get that hot. It has a really slow rate of fire, so I can't imagine it's going to be that much of an issue ever.
Also, the only heat that's transferring is the momentary when the gun is firing, and other than that, the bolt's not touching anything in the firing chamber. So this really doesn't get heat up in at 450 rounds a minute. At 45, it's kind of hard to overheat this gun.
Yeah, I can't imagine getting into heavy combat with it.
Yeah, imagine by the time if you would get it to that point, you've got bigger problems than being hot.
A little thumb burn, yeah.
Yeah, my experience is, I would say the fight with this one would probably be better, because if I got excited, I'd probably shear this off. But shooting in my backyard, I like the crank, especially when it's cold, because the crank works easier with gloves. But I would agree with you. The M3A1 is probably, for the military, is a better system. And one of the things I didn't show you guys, and I want to show people out here that they thought of, little things that are important. These magazines aren't the best to load, so they have a loader, okay? On the M3, there's nothing here. On the M3A1, they put a magazine loader, right in the stock. Also, and don't ask me why, because it shouldn't be this way, but this M3, so I don't have to show you, has the protector around the magazine release so you can't bump off the magazine. That wasn't on the super early guns. So, winner, M3A1. All right, we're going to hang with us for a second, and we'll be back with who wins, the M3A1 or the 28A1. If you stuck around, you get to see who the grand prize winner is. Okay, now I thought there was only going to be one, but Stan reminded me that in the Thompson video, there were actually two separate winners. One if you're a civilian and you're shooting in your backyard, and one if you're going to fight with it. The grease gun, the M3A1 just won, basically. So, Stan, between the 28 and the M3A1, if you're just a casual in the backyard shooter.
28A1 all day long.
Why?
It's just a more smooth gun to shoot. You mentioned before about the mags, the grease gun. The grease gun mags, a little stiff to load, a little bit of a pain in the butt. Thompson mags, they're double column, double feed, no such problem. Plus, you measure yourself, classic lines. Yeah, just overall better gun. Like, look at that machining. It's wonderful. And then it's a cool piece of history, but not exactly the same.
Dave?
Oh, I agree totally. I mean, the Thompson is just way cooler. As far as shooting is concerned, it had, the historical aspect of it. The grease gun's cool as far as, the history behind it. It's a much simpler to make weapon. But I enjoyed shooting the Thompson far more. It's much smoother. Kind of felt like the low rate of fire in the grease gun was a little bit of a hindrance as far as keeping it on target. But yeah, I'd go with that Thompson.
All right, I'm going to give you I know you guys couldn't see it, but when you were both shooting the grease guns, you were getting double hits on the steel. You were not getting them with the Thompson. Now, you'd always get one, but the other one was just a little bit off, and I think that's simply because of experience, because once you really get into the trigger and lean, that'll solve. Now, you're in a GI, and you're in 1945, and you're going to fight in Germany, or you're going to invade Japan. Do you want to be issued one of these, or do you want to be issued one of these?
Thinking about that. I think it depends on specific task. Is the grease gun has, I think, especially because you're not going to be shooting all the time with it. It's got a lot of good features like the collapsible stock, especially you're going to be operating around vehicles if you're in mech, anything like that, airborne, or even if you're in an infantry platoon, if you've got specific tasks within that team. Like let's say you're an RTO, radio telephone operator, something like that. It's more handy.
You're a grunt in the Marine Corps, and you're going to hit the beaches.
Yeah.
Which one do you want?
Thompson.
Why?
I Honestly, I think I said I had Thompson seemed to be. I like this. I felt more confident with the sight. It was easier to see. Had a better. I preferred the sights. I like the rate of fire a little there. Like I said, it felt smoother actually. Like it felt like I was hitting more, but I guess I wasn't.
No, you weren't.
Ah.
You weren't. But it's hard to see because, you know, shooting 45 in the snow and all the smoke that the gun generates when it's 12 degrees outside. David?
While the Thompson is super heavy, and it's kind of clunky, and like you said, the Kerr sling that was issued with them they're not great slings. I kind of also preferred it. I think the grease gun is actually supposed to be more reliable, from what I've read, but I don't have the experience personally to know. But I kind of have to lean towards the Thompson because, you know, it's a Thompson, you know.
My opinion, I am a Thompson snob. I love Thompsons. My first submachine gun was a Thompson. I've got, I don't know, 5 or 6 of them. The grease gun is a decent weapon. Why I wouldn't want the grease gun over the Thompson, or why I wouldn't want the Thompson over the grease gun, comes down to 2 things. Is the magazines. If I need to top my magazines off in the field, I can. If this is at 20 rounds, like it's a break in fighting, and I can just click more rounds in there. Easy to do with this. You get past 20 rounds in a grease gun mag, you better have a loader, or you better have the M3, and hopefully this little tang hasn't broken off the stock to load the magazines. The other thing is something that I developed when I was a police officer. I can't speak for military guys. Is faith in my weapon. Is my weapon going to work for me 100% of the time? Okay. Just the way when you feel a grease gun, the way you take it apart and you see how it's built versus the machining and the time that goes into making it in a Thompson, I have 1,000% faith in that. I don't have 1,000% faith in that. I probably got over 100,000 rounds on Thompsons and maybe 20,000 rounds on grease guns, and the only time a Thompson has ever failed me is when I had a bad magazine. Okay, grease guns, again, they fail me when there's bad magazines, but for some reason the feed lips seem to get bent a little easier on even though the Thompson magazines will bend easier, it's easier to miss a bad grease gun magazine, the alignment on the feed lips. I just don't have the faith in this gun that I would have. I'm sorry, I have the faith in this gun and not in this gun. It's just something I have. I don't know if you guys were combat vets. Did you have that kind of mentality? You needed to know that your gun would go 100%.
Oh, hell yeah! Like, if the gun's not gonna work, it's a paperweight, you know, it's useless.
So I really think that that's not something that goes down on paper, and that's not something really, if you're a collector or you're a shooter in the backyard, you ever had to worry about. But if I was going in and I was fighting with this M1, and then the supply sergeant says, we're not doing that anymore, we're all going to grease guns, I'd have been pissed. Okay? Just because that I had something that I know was going to work, and I have an unknown here that looks like it was made for $1.99. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the comparison. Thanks for coming.